So, welcome everybody to RMU Psychology Presents Let's Talk MS in Counseling Psychology Student Seminar. We're going to be talking about the MS in Counseling Psychology program as well as the 3+2 program, and you will get a chance to kind of talk with some of the students in the program about their experience and any advice that they have. So before we fully begin, I just want to remind everyone to keep your mics muted unless you're talking, or if you have any questions, wait till the end, or you can put them in the chat. Either way, we'll get to your questions. So a little bit of an overview, so I'm the host of the webinar. My name is Briana Bunner. I am a graduate assistant for the psychology department and a second-year student. An overview for this webinar, we are going to introduce the psychology students, also do the overview of the counseling program, an overview of 3+2, and then the discussion with the students. And then we will answer any questions that you have at the end. So like I kind of said before, my name is Briana Bunner. I'm a second-year student in the program. I'm also a GA, and my internship currently is at Duquesne's Counseling Center, and the population that I would like to work with either after this, that's my current interest, is the college-age population, specifically student athletes. I'm also very interested in trauma. So Hannah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Hannah Owens. I am currently a second-year graduate student with the MSc program. I currently, and during my fall, have been placed at King & Associates. It's a private counseling center. Basically, they work with individuals that are within the criminal justice system, both offenders, so sex offenders, as well as victims of trauma. And the population I'm most interested in is the adult population. I would like to work with the criminal justice population, whether that's individuals finding themselves in the criminal justice system, post-incarceration, or individuals of victims of crimes.
Thank you for sharing, Hannah. Hadley, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So, hi, everyone. My name's Hadley Roy. I am also a second year here in the MS counseling program. My current internship is with the UPMC Center for Eating Disorders. Specifically, I'm in the partial hospitalization program and the intensive outpatient program. My ideal population is just kind of continuing on with what I'm doing now with internship, working with eating disorders, specifically in children, adolescents into like early 20s, young adulthood.
Awesome, thank you for sharing. All right, moving on to the first year students. Amber, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, my name is Amber Sobak. I am the first year graduate assistant for the Department of Psychology. I'm also a first year graduate student here at RMU. My current internship is at Gateway Rehab. Basically, that's a rehab site for addictions counseling. I work with people of all different ages, as young as 20 and as old as people in their 60s who are struggling with different types of addiction, whether if it's alcohol use, drug use, things like that. Since I have been working at Gateway, I have grown to really like it a lot. So I would like to work in the population of addictions, and I was thinking of maybe incorporating it with athletes. But yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And then finally, we have Jamie. Jamie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Jamie Folks. I am a first-year student here in the MS counseling program. I am one of the 3+2 students here, so I believe there's about 4 or 5 in my cohort and maybe 1 or 2 above. So talking a little bit more about that probably down the road. But my internship currently is at Allegheny Health Network. Essentially, we get a lot of the AGH patients, pretty much all kinds of patients all over the Pittsburgh area, between adults, adolescents, older adults, pretty much everyone. It is pretty diverse, and there's a lot of different areas you could go in there. So I'm interested in seeing all of those within my future internships if I am to stay with them. The population I'm currently interested is overall teens and adults. I would like to work with like older teens, simply because I just have like a little connection with them, and yeah.
Awesome. So thank you all for sharing. We are going to, before we get into our discussion with the students, we are going to kind of just overcap the MS in Counseling Psychology program. So the program is a 2-year cohort with 60 credit curriculum. So there is summer, fall, spring, and then there's 2 years of that. And our courses usually occur in the evening. So for the first year, you have Monday, Wednesday evening courses. And then for the second year, you have Tuesday, Thursday evening courses. So this program is designed to train professional counselors for work in settings such as mental health centers, community agencies, hospitals, rehabilitation offices, addiction treatment clinics, and family service organizations. So it provides a foundation in counseling skills, assessments, and individual/group therapy. Graduates of the program are eligible to sit in for the National Counselor Examination for licensure and certification, so the NCE. Graduates of the program will meet the core educational requirements for professional counselor licensure, so LPC, that credential in the state of Pennsylvania. So that has to, once you get your post-graduation hours, you will then be able to kind of meet that requirement. So the Master's in Counseling Psychology program is also a fully accredited program as of this past March. Alrighty, so then moving on to the 3+2 Accelerated Bachelor's to Master's degree program in Counseling Psychology. So this program is for highly qualified students enrolled in a Bachelor's of Science in Psychology program at RMU. And this candidate for the program would start during the spring of they can apply for the spring semester of their first year. So it offers a pathway to graduates with a dual degree. So like I said, a Bachelor's of Science in Psychology and then a Master's of Science in Counseling Psychology, which means that this is a 5-year program, 3 years of undergraduate coursework, and then you transition into the Counseling Psychology graduate coursework during the summer of their 3rd year. So 12 credits, so 4 courses of graduate coursework taken after the spring of the student's 3rd year is counted towards the undergraduate degree. In the fall of their 3rd year, candidates on the 3+2 course of study will apply to the Master's in Counseling Psychology program. If accepted, they will take graduate courses for the following summer and fall. So students graduating from this program will also meet the educational requirements necessary for licensure as a professional counselor, so the LPC and the Commonwealth of PA. All right, so we are going to move into the discussion portion of this. I'm actually going to stop sharing the presentation so that we can see everybody's faces. All right. Okie dokie. So so how this format is going to go is I'm kind of just going to ask questions, and then whoever would like to answer is more than welcome to answer. So first question being, what were some reasons for getting a master's degree in counseling psychology?
I can go ahead and answer this. So I personally have been utilizing counseling since I was probably in high school. So that personal interest, to help better myself. And then as I was an undergrad, I kind of determined that, the skills that I've learned, I'd like to help others learn. Unfortunately, I did have a death in the family that was quite traumatic. And after that death, I really started to get the push of I really want to help others. So towards my senior year, which, all my friends were already applying to graduate school, I said, yeah, I'm going to do this. So I applied, I went, and I'm hoping to really use this, because of my own experience. I really want to help others with, very similar situations.
Thank you for sharing, Hannah. Would anyone else like to kind of share on their reason for getting a master's in counseling psychology?
I can go. Is that okay? Okay. So I actually graduated in 2020 with my bachelor's, and I started working immediately. I still actually work for my company. I work for Sativa Health. We were neurorestorative. I do cognitive retraining therapy. I work with clients who have TBIs and ABIs, so traumatic brain injuries and acquired brain injuries. I also work with people on the ASD spectrum, from anything from Asperger's to schizophrenia, hydrocephalus, things like that. And I would go to their homes and be there for 3 hours a day, sometimes 5. And it was one of those things where I loved what I was doing, but I knew I wanted to do more. And the only way I could do that is if I came back to school and, gained more knowledge and gained more experience to help with what I want to do.
Great. Thank you for sharing, Amber. So I will actually share a little bit of the reason why I was interested in gaining a master's in counseling psychology degree. I really liked student athletes, and my main focus was to kind of work in the sports psychology realm. But then I realized that I would best benefit my student athlete population if I was able to have a counseling background, as well as like a clinical background, to help them with any type of mental health disorders, any type of mental struggles, because they're human, right? They can be paired with, they can have regular personal life stressors on top of being an athlete. And I realized that as an athlete, sometimes it can be amplified because they have such an identity. They have such like a kind of thought process, I guess, behind it, that it would be helpful to be able to counsel them in addition to doing performance related things. So, all right, would anyone else like to share?
Can jump in here. So I went to RMU for undergrad. I initially thought I'm going to go right into a doc program, just do the whole thing right away. And then I thought, maybe I want to get a master's first. And it's been a really good call. I'm really happy I did it this way, just to kind of get more of a background in this before jumping right into the super intense stuff. But originally I wanted to do more like of a research focus. Just growing up, I had a lot of friends who struggled with eating disorders, which has kind of become my passion. And I was always curious, like, why some individuals developed eating disorders while others didn't. So I was curious to kind of get that background in the development of eating disorders. And then I realized I also wanted to work with people, not just like the research side of things, and actually treating eating disorders. So this has really been like a good opportunity to learn about how they develop, why they develop, how to treat them, and then also getting that like real clinical experience in treating eating disorders and other diagnoses. But yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Thank you, Hadley. All right. Would anyone else like to add their reason before we move on to the next question?
I could jump in a little bit.
Okay.
So I feel, not for all students, but for many students, I feel like in psychology, usually mental health or mental illness is kind of like a part of you or part of your friends or part of your family. So I'd say like growing up, I was from like a lower income area and, wasn't, kind of got picked on, but, grew past that and, ended up switching schools. But overall, I feel like psychology and like mental health just kind of followed with me. It was definitely something coming into college I knew I wanted to do. I wanted just to learn a lot more about and, how it really works. So definitely that, and definitely moving on to the master's program, just to better jobs, better opportunities, open a door for a lot of places. So.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jamie. Okay. So the next question is, what expectations did you have coming into this program? Would anyone like to start?
I could start on that one.
Okay, go ahead, Jamie.
So being a 3+2 student specifically, my expectations for this program was kind of that it would be difficult, honestly. It is an accelerated program. It is 2 years, and the summer courses are specifically only 8 weeks, which is kind of be really intimidating, especially to start, and being kind of like a year behind like some of the other students who, have another year in the field already, could definitely be intimidating. So I was under the impression it would be like super difficult. However, I can say while it has been difficult, it hasn't been as bad as I expected. And, you definitely have the support system and the individuals there to help you get through the more difficult times. So.
Thank you. And I appreciate you sharing your perspective as a 3+2 student, because I can imagine that that would be challenging and an adjustment, because you didn't have as much time to kind of gain that knowledge or gain those skills. And so kind of transitioning into the master's program. Okay, thank you. Who else would like to share?
I can share. I obviously expected to get the education, like the coursework and all of that stuff. And having gone to RMU for undergrad, I knew some of the faculty going into it. But what I didn't necessarily expect, but was pleasantly surprised, is just how close you become with the faculty and how supportive they are, going out of their way to make sure that like you have everything that you need to be successful in the program. Went way above and beyond my expectations. And we have like a really good set of full-time faculty and like adjunct professors who have taught the majority of our coursework. And I think just having those professionals who are also still in the field, getting that clinical experience to share with us has been really beneficial. I know for my own education, just having those like real experiences that they can share has really helped me in the program and kind of figure out where I want to go with things. So above and beyond my expectations in terms of faculty and the support that we've all received from them.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Hadley. All right, who's next?
I can definitely speak to some of my expectations. So originally I'm from upstate New York, and I went to school not in Pittsburgh, so I really wasn't sure quite what I was expecting. I was nervous when I did my interview process because most everybody was an RMU undergrad, maybe only a couple people weren't. So I was kind of nervous coming into it, thinking that I'm going to be kind of a loner, kind of an outcast, just because maybe they all know each other. And that has completely changed since I started the program. I believe our cohort is very close. We share a lot of experiences together. We talk about our internships, our practicums, and our, sometimes our personal stuff in class. So it really makes you feel family-ish. So you really get to know your people, plus having that faculty guide you through. I really wasn't quite sure what to expect, especially not wanting to go to grad school right away. But I'm very glad that these have met and exceeded my expectations.
Thank you, Hannah. All right, so I will go kind of to add on to what Hadley and Hannah said. In addition to the supportive faculty and just like the cohort connection that we have, an expectation that I had coming in was that I didn't realize, I guess we are learning skills, and like we're learning skills, we're identifying skills. And I realized that I didn't really have as many self-care coping mechanisms that were healthy as I expected. And so that first year, it was a smoother transition for the first year. But when I got into my internship and didn't realize how much burnout I actually got involved in, and like, I struggled a little bit over the fall semester when transitioning, because in that clinical role, you are taking on a lot of other people's things, and kind of learning to separate yourself from that, learning to really practice self-care, learning ways that I knew that I could feel better. And I definitely utilize my faculty. I utilize my cohort members. I tried different things that I didn't always do before in terms of self-care. So I will say that that is an expectation I wasn't expecting. I was expecting for it to be kind of smooth transition, like everything will be fine, like I'll get my degree, which I still will get it. I just didn't realize how kind of roller coaster it would be for me. But other than that, again, this program has exceeded my expectations, and I am thankful that I am here, and hopefully sometime in the future we'll be back after we graduate. So, all right. Amber, would you like to share?
Sure. So by taking that gap year off and working in the field, my expectations were high, because I got my undergrad at RMU too, and coming back into the classroom and being able to make that connection personally to what I've learned in the field in the classroom has really made the difference. And the professor feedback on that and the support that we all have with each other in my cohort. Especially, we all work together really well. We all bounce off of each other really well. So it was a lot different from my undergrad, because in my undergrad, I sat in the back of the classroom. I never talked. I just, I was always just doing what I needed to do and was ready to be done. But the master's program is so much better. It's so different. It's so much more personalized, and it's so nice and small. So it's a really good experience to go through. I highly recommend it.
Thank you, Amber. Appreciate you sharing that. All right, so our next question, what concerns, if any, did you have coming into this program and into a master's degree? Would anyone like to start?
I can go ahead and start.
Sure.
I think for me, I definitely wanted that cohort model. Just having, the same peers to go through everything together was definitely something that I was looking forward to. But also I was a little nervous. Like, we only had, at the beginning we had 8. That's not a lot of people. So what if you don't find your person, kind of like to what Hannah was speaking to earlier? What if like you just don't mesh with anybody and you're kind of alone? So that was a little bit of like an anxious thing for me, just not knowing what to expect out of the other people. Obviously, I knew some of you guys going into it, so that helped. But we really have found our like relationships throughout this, and we've processed things together, and it's really been a benefit. Even though we are very different personality-wise, I think everybody has a place and a space to come together and like find our commonalities. You're going through the same thing. That can just be really helpful to have people to be like, yeah, you know what, that was me 2 weeks ago, and this is how I like worked through it. So just was concerned in the beginning, but definitely not a concern anymore. We're very, very close and do things all the time. So yeah.
All right, thank you, Hadley. I appreciate you sharing that. So I will go next. So a concern that I had in particular going into the program was that I wouldn't be able to work with my student athlete population as well as I thought I would if I went into a sports psychology degree. But I found that that wasn't necessarily the case because I was able to kind of build that into each one of my experiences. So with my practicum, even though I worked in drug and alcohol or Jade Wellness, I was able to kind of incorporate different things from what I learned into my sport student athlete population. I was able to say, okay, well, like how can I apply this to the population that I want to work with? And then for my internship, even though I'm at Duquesne's Counseling Center, I was very upfront with them saying I would like to work with the athletic department. I would like to have student athletes. And even though I might not get as many student athletes as I would have hoped for, I still have gotten that experience. And then on top of that, probably my favorite thing is getting to work with the MS in Counseling Psychology training clinic. I was actually able to develop part of it as a student athlete training clinic so that our master's in counseling psychology students have the opportunity to not only work with the student athlete population, but on a more like psychosocial level, maybe some potential performance, but mainly the psychosocial stressors that student athletes face. And so that concern that I had went away when I found all of these avenues and had faculty support me in getting these avenues and kind of creating that population that I wanted to work with. So I still got that experience. Okay, who else would like to share?
I could go next.
Okay.
So kind of backing off something that I said already, my biggest concern coming into this program was that I simply was younger than most people, and I knew that most of these people are probably going to be older than me. So I actually was surprised, coming into my first semester, that there was a decent amount of 3+2 students within my cohort. And kind of going off what Hadley said, coming in, it's like, oh, I've seen some of these faces before, but even being from RMU, necessarily didn't talk to everyone, as undergrad is just so much bigger compared to the master's level. So I would say that I was really nervous that am I going to create connections with these people? Are we going to be able to be a group? Because I know the first couple classes, it was kind of silence, and we're always who's going to talk first? Who's going to speak up? But now that's definitely not a problem, and we do talk a lot outside of class, inside of class, so that was nice. But kind of going off that, just being younger than most, I knew like there's some people coming back. There are people who've just been in the program longer than me. So definitely some nerves surrounding that. But I feel like all the professors and faculty kind of address those concerns with specifically the 3+2 students coming in. And if there are any issues that arise, they are definitely there to like back you up. So I know specifically, I was like, oh, I don't feel like I have as many skills as maybe these other individuals. And they're really there to support you and tell you like, well, maybe you don't see them, but I see them. So that was nice.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. Amber or Hannah, would you, either of you, like to share any concerns, or should we move on to the next question?
The concerns that I had coming into the program was the experience that I gained outside of school going to help me in the classroom? And if so, would I be too much to the other students? Because it's one of those things where I didn't want to be like worried if people thought I was talking too much, or like if I talked too much about like my job and stuff. Like it was one of those things I just didn't want to seem like a know-it-all based off of my experience that I gained, if it was applicable to the classroom. But it seems that we all kind of bounce off of each other like with that kind of stuff, especially since now we're in practicum. But yeah, so it didn't seem to be an issue though. So
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that. Hannah, is there anything that you would like to share, or should we move on?
I think we covered most everything. We could probably move on to the next question.
Okay. All right. So the next question that we have is, how do you help balance school, internship, work, any forms of self-care that you guys practice to help you get through?
Yeah, so I can.
Oh, self-care. Go ahead, Jamie. You want me to go? Okay. Coming in, I thought I had self-care, and I definitely didn't. Going through undergrad and being like, oh, I can take a nap here, or, oh, I can wait till the last minute to get my homework done. That doesn't quite work in grad school. Unfortunately, I tried it, and it didn't work well for me. So, but things that I've definitely learned, utilizing a counselor of my own while in this program has been a big help, especially because, personally, the counselor I have that I can talk to, will express or self-disclose, things of her own when she went through school. So, she relays information that, worked best for her, what I could try, things along those lines. And then finding your support. So, everybody comes in saying like, oh, my friends are a big support, or my family. Well, for me, I don't live where most of my family lives. I moved out of New York. It's just me and my boyfriend here. So we kind of had to make our own support system here. I do have him. I have my cohort. And then I have found friends that are very supportive. But at the same time, it's very hard sometimes to, these friends want to go out. They want to go do things. And I have to say, no, I have to have that backbone a little bit to say, I don't have time to do this right now, unfortunately, but I'll be graduating in May. So I'll see you in May. Other than that, I think self-care is really a big thing. Learning how to say no and setting boundaries was really hard for me at first. And as time has progressed, I definitely feel more confident in myself, being able to talk to, supervisors and people who are overseeing my progress, having those conversations, sitting down and kind of going through like what I need to do my best. So, coming in with not much and leaving with a lot, I think it's definitely helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah, for sharing that. Jamie, would you like to go next?
Yeah, so kind of with what Hannah said, I feel like I had not a lot of similarities as I did come here, but just coming in, I felt like with self-care from being in a psychology field, like you think you have like so much and so much. However, it's not till when the semester final starts hitting up, or midterm towards the end of the semester starts ramping up, and you're like, oh my goodness, I have so many papers and assignments and all this stuff, and I am burnt out. So it's definitely was an eye opener for me. And so definitely self-care that I do, which some deep breathing techniques, people do meditation, some people do deep breathing. I found it very beneficial. It's really relaxing for your body as you just do it more often and often. But also, there's others like hanging out with friends, taking time off yourself, self-affirmations. That stuff has been helpful. But then something I've also started this year is personally just going therapy for myself. I would say it has been very beneficial from both being a client and a student at the same time. You kind of learn all those skills that, you may learn about. And if, you aren't actually ever the client, you may not understand the client's perspective and like where they're coming from. So I do think it is beneficial just for self-care, having that third party person to talk to and like vent, especially if, you may not have as many friends or, you just want like someone who's unbiased. So very beneficial for that aspect. And then also like for learning as well. So.
Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate you sharing that. So I'll kind of piggyback off of what Hannah and Jamie have said thus far. Again, utilizing a counselor, especially when you're going through stuff, because when you have your own personal stuff, kind of getting piled onto all of the things that you're taking on from your clients, or just like the heaviness that you may feel. Can be really quite challenging. And so talking that out with a counselor, I also think utilizing your cohort members, mainly because they get it, right? Like they understand what you're going through. They understand the process. They understand like how it feels to go through these different things. And utilizing the faculty as well. I particularly like to do like physical forms of self-care. I'm very much into hiking, biking, exercising, going to the gym with friends, playing on the club volleyball team. Like my way to get stressed out is definitely through exerting energy, and that kind of makes me feel better. And kind of what Jamie mentioned too, deep breathing. I very much like deep breathing. That also helps me in the counseling world as well, especially when I'm in session with clients and I'm starting to feel particular ways. I really tend to go to deep breathing and like grounding techniques. So yeah. All right, Hadley, Amber.
Yeah, it just same kind of stuff for me. I have a routine like every Sunday night, just kind of to gear up for the weekend. I do like face mask or whatever, just sit on my couch, paint my toenails, do like nothing that is at all related to school, internship work. Just really setting those boundaries. I try to get everything done during the week so that my weekends can just be whatever I need them to be that week. Also just, the cohort, having family support. I do Pilates. It's like a great way to just clear your mind and move your body. Yeah, all those things. And I think just really like checking in with yourself, understanding when like those normal self-care routines need to be amped up because things are getting like a little bit busier with school, or, things are kind of struggling with work or internship or whatever, just knowing and understanding when you need like some additional self-care stuff for that week.
Awesome. Thank you, Hadley. All right, Amber, would you like to share, or should we move on to the next question?
Out of everybody, I seem to be the worst person that has self-care practice. I have gotten better. I work 3 other jobs on top of going to school, so I barely take any time off for myself, and the burnout was really bad my fall semester. So this spring semester, I have cut down my hours at least 2 of my other jobs, and I only work for them certain days of the week in certain times of the month. So that's really helped me out. But yeah, I mean, pretty much what everyone said is things I've started to really imply for myself more recently than not. And really taking a step back from those working times has helped me tremendously with keeping up with my work and not trying to do homework during the 15-minute breaks I would get here and there. So it's gotten better.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe we can all learn from each other in a sense. Okay. So the next question, moving on, is what are your career or professional goals after graduating from this program? Who would like to start?
I can start us off. So my ideal is to work towards licensure, becoming an LPC, potentially going back for a doctorate. check in like a year and I'll have a better answer. But just getting some more experience in the field, ideally continuing on with where I am for my internship, working with the Center for Eating Disorders. I really enjoy working with a younger population. I think it's a very unique experience to be able to see kids come in crisis or just really struggling with whatever's going on in their lives, and they are able to get adequate treatment and are set up for success, hopefully for the rest of their life. Evidence-based, we see better outcomes the earlier and the better the interventions are. So I really like working with the younger population and would very much like to continue doing so, especially in the eating disorder realm. Working towards LPC and maybe a doctorate. Who knows?
Okay, thank you for sharing. All right, who else would like to share?
I can go.
Okay, go ahead.
I of course want to get my LPC as well. I would love to open up my own private practice. I'm like, my mind's like seeing like a nice addictions clinic for general population and athletes. I feel like that'd be so cool to do. I am really interested in getting my doctorate. I feel like that would be awesome because I feel like it'd be cool to also incorporate this kind of stuff in the classroom as well. Talking about the different populations and addictions, because I feel like sometimes it's not focused all around. And I feel like it would be really interesting to see that in the classroom setting. But yeah, I definitely, if RMU said, hey, you want to come back again for a third go, I would say, sign me up. I'm coming back. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Hannah, Jamie, would you guys like to share?
Yeah, I could go ahead.
Okay.
So being a first year, not exactly sure yet, as I still have some time. However, kind of general, just continue to getting my experience and working towards licensure. I myself will also like to have my own private practice, maybe potentially some of the cohorts get together, get a building, we all have our different little, niches that we're getting into our own population. So maybe it could work out. But, for schooling after this, not exactly sure, kind of, get back to me. As of now, I'm like, I just want to take a break. I want to get the experience. I just want to like soak up everything that I can for now. And then down the road, if maybe my job or whatever wants to pay for it, or, I just come around to saying, hey, maybe I will go back. I'd maybe go back. But as of now, I'm really kind of set with my master's and, going to run with it while I can.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. All right, Hannah, would you like to go or would you like me to go?
Whatever you want to do, Bri. You want to go ahead?
Go ahead.
Okay. So my career professional goals, like I said, I wasn't really sure coming into grad school to begin with, but now that I'm here, I'm very happy that I did it. The consideration of going on to a doc program was an idea, still is an idea, but maybe not for a year or so. Just not something I really want to take on as of right now. Maybe and keeping my, criminal population, I think, and recently I have been looking at federal probation, pretrial services, state probation, doing things a little outside of the counseling realm, but still utilizing those skills. So I know a few individuals that work in that field, and a lot of their background has been community mental health. So without going too far out of that realm of career or population or working, I kind of want to jump right into it if possible. If not, I would love to work in a private practice somewhere, or even within maybe like a correction facility, maybe juveniles. But as of right now, I'm still looking for the probation and pretrial services.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. So for me, I am taking definitely a year off before getting a going to a doctoral program. I will be doing the LPC and accumulating hours. I am looking at potentially getting a job within a private practice at the moment, and kind of getting those hours under like someone who's trauma, maybe sport focused. I would like to one day work in a counseling center, as well as become a professor. So maybe teach a couple classes here and there. And then while I kind of figure out all the things that I want to do, I also would like to become certified as a CMPC, which is a certified mental performance consultant. I think having the CMPC and then the LPC and NCC, kind of pairing those together, I think that I can make a pretty good sport counselor. And then eventually go and get either a PsyD or a PhD to kind of just emphasize that, gain maybe a little bit more research experience, but definitely get a better foundation in the educational sense, but probably not for another year or two. So that is me. And we will move on to the last question. So the last question is advice for students looking to get into the program. You can talk about advice while in undergrad, maybe going through the process of application, the application process, or while in the program. So any advice that you want to give them while you're your first year, while you're a second year, looking to graduate, whichever you guys prefer. So I'll kind of leave the floor open to whoever would like to start.
Could start. So definitely some advice that I would give to anyone who's interested in coming and starting in the program. Definitely trust yourself. I know, like, with me being a little bit younger, but even everyone, I would say, like, has those moments where you're like, am I really supposed to be here? Am I doing this right? Am I going to be a good counselor? XYZ. So definitely really trust yourself, trust the process, trust that you'll see growth, because at the beginning, I was like, but then, like, I have seen growth, and your professors and faculty will definitely be able to show you and tell you the growth, even if you can't see it yourself. So definitely, like, just trust the process, because, it may seem this way or this way one day, but, you really are getting all the skills and the information that you need in order to be successful. So definitely trust yourself. And then one other thing I would say is get a planner, get a calendar, get something just in order to keep you organized. That's something that really has helped me. Like, I used to always just, write some stuff down, but just having a planner and writing down, like, all those thoughts that you may have, even within, like, your personal life and your school life, just to help keep you organized and on track. Because, once that personal life starts hitting, all that stuff that you're getting within your master's program, it's hard to keep up. Like, your dentist appointment, you may forget about it. So just make sure you stay organized, and, it'll be good.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. All right, who is next?
I can go. So in comparison to Jamie, I didn't have the opportunity to have the 3+2 program. It was being developed when me and Bree were seniors, and it was one of those things where at that point in time as a senior, I was like, I don't know if I want my master's. So I was like, I'll work instead. And, within about a year and a half of working, I said, yeah, no, I think it's definitely time to go back and do more. So I did. So, like, the advice I can give is, as great as it is to have the 3+2 program, and as great as I think it is to have that acceleration, there's other options with pursuing your master's. You don't have to do the 3+2 program. You can wait a little bit, try to work a little bit in the field and see if it's meant for you. And I'm kind of glad that I had that opportunity to do it like that, because it has made this experience so much more worthwhile for me, being able to sit in the classroom and know what is being talked about, and, like, actually being able to participate with confidence, knowing that at some point of time when I was working with a certain client, I went through it myself. So the advice I can give is the opportunities are endless, and just because somebody does it one way doesn't mean you have to. See your best fit.
Thank you, Amber. I appreciate you sharing that. Okay. Hadley, Hannah?
Yeah, so kind of going off that, I also took a year off in between undergrad and master's, and I really appreciated that time to just kind of take a breather in between before gearing up for another 2 years. So, just allowing yourself some space and grace, a little rhyme for you today, to just do what you need to do for yourself, recognizing when you need some time, I think, is important. Also, keeping an open mind with what population you might want to work with. I didn't think that I wanted to work with kids. And then my practicum, just where I was able to find a placement, was working with 3 to 5-year-olds. And although I don't know that I want to work with a population that young, I am more open to working with a younger population. I thought I wanted to start with adolescents and up, and now, that older childhood range is available to me, and I'm not terrified of it anymore because I had that experience. So I just think having an open mind with things, not turning something down just because you think you won't like it. That's kind of the great part about having a practicum and 2 internships. So theoretically, if you wanted to, you could have 3 different experiences throughout the program to really get that knowledge and say, like, yeah, you know what, I did it and I didn't like it, or I did it and I realized I really love working with insert population here. Um, Also, going along with that, starting early with finding a placement in the times of COVID, especially, it can be pretty hard. I was very fortunate in finding placements pretty quickly, but I know some others struggled. So, just starting early, our professors are not being dramatic when they say, like, in the summer, start looking for a placement now for the spring. Yeah.
Thank you, Hadley. All right, Hannah, would you like to go?
Sure. There are so many things I could touch upon, especially going off of that. Like the idea of going into practicum thinking, maybe this is the population I want to work with, and then not getting into that practicum. Unfortunately, that was my experience. I had a list of places I wanted to go. I didn't get any of them. I ended up just going somewhere that was gonna accept me. I'm very thankful that I had that opportunity. I did work with family-based mental health, so I was going into homes, working with, it was kids and juveniles. Nobody was over the age of 16, I don't believe, that I saw, but I was working within the home, behaviors, changes, things along those lines with families. So like parents' input, as well as, how is school affecting them? How is everything affecting this child? Very glad that I had that experience. Found out I don't want to work in family-based, but I would not have known that unless I had that opportunity. Like Hadley said, I came in thinking I don't want to work with kids at all. I love working with kids. Though it's not exactly the population I want to stay with, I wouldn't mind working with kids, say kids of trauma, or I think one time I was considering working with kids that had parents that were incarcerated. So looking at still the criminality side, but also looking at how it affects the child in the home. Outside of that, I really think, coming in and not knowing what to do or where to go next is okay. And if you're unsure, even when it comes to class, like if you are stuck and it seems like everybody around you is understanding it or getting it, take that time to email your professor or like make a meeting. Like they are really willing to sit down with you and work through it. They don't want to see you fail. And they will do everything in their power to help you not. So I know with the cohort underneath us and my cohort as well, like practicum, COVID really hit us hard, and it was hard for some of us to find practicum, but our professors were not going to let us sink, and they really helped us stay afloat when it came to making sure we were getting our hours and getting those done as we needed them. Any other advice, I really would say, like, if you're considering a doc program, like Hadley said, like maybe consider a master's first, because then you can get your feet wet. You'll still have a degree afterwards, but then you don't have the doctorate if you don't want it. Other things really are like, really ask your questions, really get into the community, find out like what things you are interested in, things that you are not interested in. Everybody has such a different theoretical approach, and that's okay. And you will find yours, as well as learning what those are to look for where you want to work. So I'm sure everybody could touch upon this. Like I know in the internship I work with right now, we do TCBT, which is trauma-focused, or TFCBT, trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm sure everybody else has, whether it's CBT or something else, you really get to learn like what you find helpful, especially with the population you want to work with, as well as what types of approaches you don't want to use. some people are not going to do well with CBT, so you'll use more person-centered. And as you come into the program and through undergrad, I'm sure you'll learn what these approaches are, but this is where you really get the hands-on experience of learning kind of how to use it and who it works best with.
Awesome. Thank you, Hannah. So just to kind of top it off on advice, I would say that really be honest with yourself throughout the program, throughout the process. As someone who I took a lot of, well, I was very critical of myself, but also took a lot of feedback to heart. And I realized that some of it very well, was really true and something I really needed to work on. And it was really helpful to have and to be open with like my cohort members and to be open with my professors about things that I need to work on. And I just think that it's really beneficial, because if you go in kind of thinking or knowing that I have a pretty good idea of all of the things that I want to do, or I have a pretty good idea of how I kind of work, but maybe on the outside, you don't really see yourself in that perspective. So maybe when you watch that clinical tape with a client, kind of seeing it from a different perspective and saying oh, okay, maybe I didn't actually realize that I did this, or I didn't know that I needed to work on that. And so I would just say that being really open and to feedback and trusting the process. Other than that, thank you guys so much for being here and speaking. I'm gonna stop the recording to see if there are any questions that people may have.